Greetings, all of you beautiful souls. This is Umi, and today I am covering a video on the introduction to Gematria. I will be specifically looking at three numbers. If you are not familiar with Gematria, it is the application of numbers to letters. It's actually quite simple. This is an introduction, so if you are far advanced in the study of Gematria and vortexes and the Fibonacci sequences, and that won't be covered here, so you won't be wowed in this video. But I will say, if you're new to this, you're not familiar with Gematria, you're not familiar with particularly English Gematria and how words have this very synchronistic and mystical element that, you know, to the average person or the unawakened soul, you really wouldn't pay attention to it. But if you are waking up, you may have been experiencing a lot of synchronicities and different synchronicities associated with numbers in particular, as they're dubbed angel numbers. So I wanted to look at three numbers today and share a few words in Gematria just so you can kind of see how it works. I did have a YouTube channel about maybe 6 or 7 years ago where I talked a lot about Gematria and a little numerology, and I took my channel down for a little while and just gave things a rest because we do live in the information age and you can easily get inundated with just information. So this isn't merely information. When we get into metaphysics and Gematria and synchronicities and things like that, esoteric studies, it's something that you kind of have to let sink in a little bit. So I say that because it's easy to just take some knowledge and then, you know, run away with it and kind of miss exactly the practical application of it, and you can miss the true value in your spiritual development and, you know, how it's supposed to further your enlightenment. So the three numbers that we are going to look at today are 3, 6, and 9. Before we get into the numbers, I'm just going to, oops, no, my battery's low. Sorry about the glare on the board. 3, 6, and 9. But in the alphabet, the English alphabet, each letter has a number value. So A would be 1, B would be 2, C would be 3, D would be 4, and so on. So if you have pen and paper, I would strongly suggest you write it down. I'm not sure if my board or camera is flipped. It looks backwards from what I'm looking at. So if you have a piece of paper, you can write it down yourself so it doesn't look weird. And write out the full alphabet. So if we were to take a word, let's just say a 3-letter word to keep things simple, such as cat. C would be 3, A would be 1, and T would be 20. It's the 20th letter of the alphabet. But we can simplify it and just say 2. 2 plus 0 is 2. So cat would equal 3, 4, 5, 6. Cat, the word cat, there's nothing significant about it the reason I used it, but simply to show you how the Gematria works with the English language. The word cat equals 6. We could have also said, if we left T at 20, that cat equals 20 plus 3 plus 1 equals 24. Sorry. There goes my marker. We could have simply said that cat equals 24, and then it reduces. 2 plus 4 equals 6. So the 24 becomes 6, if this makes sense. 20 plus 3 plus 1 was 24. 2 plus 4 equals 6. So in Gematria, numbers will reduce, so you get one single number, unless it's a master number, 11, 22, 33. I consider any double-digit number a master number. I know everyone does not. Numerology enthusiasts will say it's just 11, 22, 33. Some will say it's 11, 22, 33, 44. Any double-digit number, in my opinion, up to 99 is considered a master number, because you have words like ascension and rapture, which equal 99. So ascension and the Christian or biblical reference of the rapture, these two words are similar in their meaning. Both have the same numeric value. So in essence, 99 is a master number where we wouldn't reduce that. I mean, certainly you could, but we're looking at the significance of a number when it's doubled, and calling it a master number, meaning the original value of the number is now magnified or amplified in some way. So 3, 6, and 9. 3 is associated with a coil. And I'm actually talking about a coil in the sense of a spiral or a coil. So you could see the number 3 here. And the number 3 in its association with the coil, if you think of currency or energy or electricity, it flows. So 3 in its representation of creativity, manifestation, feminine energy. 3 is associated with the coil in the sense that energy can flow up or down. When we're talking about the value of the number 3, we're not looking at it in terms of mathematics. It's not just as simple as mathematics. We're now looking at the symbolism of the number. So 3 is associated with the coil. It could be associated with a cycle or a spiral or continuum. So if you look at numerology, the study of numbers, just simply try to avoid your fixation on numerology as being, like a worship. It's a study. It's not something that you should worship in the sense, the way some people can place astrology as being so valuable to their daily lives. That forecast, that horoscope, they have to depend on it to just navigate through their day, through their month, through the year, that you lose sight of the need to transcend what the symbolism and the esoteric representation of these things mean. So with numerology, it's just the study, but it's intended to give you certain insights about the unseen, the spiritual journey, the soul journey. This isn't talked about in religious organizations because it was hidden. It was hidden knowledge, and people began to sink into a state of darkness as they lost sight of who and what they are. So numerology is a study. It allows you to peer more into the self, more into your essence, more into who you are as a being. So if 3 is associated with the spiral, and people go through life in cycles, they repeat the same patterns of behavior, the same relationships, the same eating patterns and habits until they die. They fail to realize the significance of this spiral, that you can either spiral up or you can spiral down, or you can simply stay in a stagnant state or a cycle where you're just continuing the same patterns of behavior, and you can even continue it generation after generation after generation of the same ideologies, the same dogmas, the same belief about who you are and what you are. So you can certainly take any race of people and see where that pattern of behavior has been a continuous cycle for these people. And there are people incarnating, children incarnating on the planet who are intended to shift that cycle, to break free from that cycle. And this is where we get into the 6 and the 9. So remember that these numbers are symbolic. This is an introduction to Gematria, and we'll talk more about words, but we first have to look at the symbolism of these numbers. So 6 is associated with the spiral down. Spiral down. Very simple. It's a symbol. If you associate this vortex with your consciousness, with your soul, if you will, I know this could be a bit complex of a idea or philosophy, but if you look at it, people can go in a state of decline in terms of their spiritual development, where they can become spiritually empty, depleted, ignorant. So that enlightenment that is talked about by the prophets, Jesus himself in scripture would go on to say, these things I do, you can do also. But people's level of consciousness and understanding of these things was so low that we as a collective didn't believe or don't believe we have the power to do certain things. 6 is also associated with manifestation, which is to bring something into existence. So if 9 is associated with the elevation, enlightenment, ascension, rapture, or higher plane of existence and plane of reality, an elevated awareness of reality, the 9, then what goes on in this plane, the elevated plane, we associate it with an ascendant state of thought, an ascendant state of existence. And our idea plane, the mental plane, the unseen, because remember, 6 being associated with to manifest means to bring something into physicality, into tangible, real existence where we can see it, touch it, know it, experience it. And that is what many people's life is centered around, is what can I manifest? What can I have? What can I gain? I want to live my best life. I want to manifest this, 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 and this, and this. We just want things in this reality because we live in the 3rd dimension, which is associated with the cycle. Only thing we know in this cycle is what we can manifest and how we can establish ourselves in this reality based on what we manifest. So manifestation in and of itself is not a negative thing. However, our fixation has been on what we can manifest. So our consciousness has gone from an enlightened state of insight and higher spiritual wisdom to a fallen state of simply desires, low magic. What can I manifest? What can I have? So we've developed a fixation on money and different material things. That is not a bad thing to want money, to want security. I'm a Taurus. I have a Capricorn rising sign. Security is very important to me just so I can feel sane. I can feel safe. I can feel okay. So part of my nature has been to transcend or to balance that desire to manifest things. Like I don't feel safe unless I have this or I have that, you know, and I have to transcend that belief that I need to simply have the physical manifestations to feel valuable even as a person, a human, a woman. So this is and notice that yin yang, notice this balance here. Notice that your consciousness is going to be in a constant state of this manifestation versus elevation and consciousness. And you're gonna almost be torn between that. And I just stumbled on a gentleman's channel where I'm listening to his frustration about money and, you know, how we don't really need money. We don't really need these certain things. And you know, people shouldn't be charging for certain knowledge, which I do agree with. I think in this time right now, we need to be freely dispensing knowledge and insights from spirit if that's something you're gifted with. However, I do feel there has to be a balance in the material world and our spiritual existence, our spiritual nature, essence. So the 9 being to elevate is intended to shift our reality from this low level of this is all there is to a much grander and more expansive sense of self and our relationship with the God within. Everyone claims in their religious practices to believe in God, but it's always some ethereal, out-of-body, distant entity that people crave a relationship with and pray to, but don't realize that that is within the self, within the being, within the spirit of a person. So in order to elevate to that relationship, kingdom, spiritual union with the God within, we have to elevate in consciousness. So this awakening that's been going on since 2011, 2012, around this time where people are starting to have these experiences and starting to see beyond the veil, and they're searching and seeking and on a quest for knowledge, is very much associated with this elevation in consciousness. It's a slow climb, as you can imagine. We'll talk in future videos about that ladder, that climb from our lower plane of existence to our higher self, higher state of being. So there's certain terminology that you may or may not resonate with or be familiar with, such as higher self. This is just you risen from the dead, risen from a level of just the third dimensional earthly existence where you pray, eat, sleep, and you die. This is taking your consciousness beyond that veil of the third dimensional reality into a more expansive, all-encompassing, very much a loving state of being where you're free from the things that plague the unawakened soul. You're free from that fear, you're free from financial uncertainty, you're free from the fear of death. You don't see death as being even a limitation. You don't even see it necessarily as an enemy. It's something you've already defeated once you've reached a certain level of higher awareness. So the 3, if it represents the spiral, the coil, the cycle, where are you in your elevation? Where are you in this current where you're flowing around and you're going up, and then some days you're spiraling down, and then other days you're flowing up? Where are you in this? And how do you consciously maneuver that energy? So if you take, for example, the Christ or Yeshua or Jesus, however you refer to the prophet, this man, this being, ascended master, his incarnation or coming down to earth, manifesting from the spirit into the physical flesh, into a living soul. His manifestation onto the planet is associated with the 6. This is when energy can come down. So that's why I said 6 is not always a negative thing, and something we need to fear in terms of the fall or bringing something down into the material plane. But it's all about intention. It's all about why we're manifesting, what we're manifesting, what is our motive behind the things that we manifest. Is it simply selfish-based desires, or does it have a greater purpose? So if there's an wisdom or insight I have, it serves no purpose if I keep it in the mental plane and I just think about it all the time, and I leave it in this space where others cannot appreciate it or gain any sort of value from it. So I'm withholding something that spirit has given me when I keep it in my mental and I don't share it. So when I manifest it into a video, into spoken word, into writing, into an article, into a whatever, this is me utilizing the 6 energy. This is me also utilizing the power of 3 in its association with energy, creativity, currency. The same as when I'm able to lift up others or to carry things from the physical into the spiritual. How can we take something as simple as a conversation between 2 people, which is a actual act that we can witness and listen to and hear? How can we take this conversation to a higher level spiritually, where you can lift a person's spirit? You've all heard that expression too. I'm sorry if I'm looking, I don't know where the camera is. If you are talking to someone and you're able to lift their spirit through your conversation, through your energy, through your vibes, through your love, you're able to lift that person up. This is associated with this 9 energy, 9 ether expansion. You're sharing something. Your light is expanding. So remember, if you are listening to this video, if you're taking an interest in metaphysics, if you're taking an interest in your awakening, then you're going to be challenged by expanding what you know and what feels true to you. And that challenge is all about getting outside of your comfort zone. And we'll talk more about that in future videos of how you're obligated to a certain extent to spread your light, because that is the basis of light. So if 9 is associated with light and wisdom and elevation, 6 would be associated with knowledge. This is bringing something down, because knowledge is not needed in the higher planes. There's already a knowing. There's already a being. You don't need to, we don't have any knowledge that we can give to the higher planes. There's nothing I can add to the higher planes in terms of knowledge. So knowledge is the sixth. It's what is brought down. And this is why you have to be careful about what knowledge you invite in and what you choose to listen to, because not all knowledge is good, useful. Not all knowledge represents light, which is to allow a person to see or experience outside of that limited realm of ignorance. I'll put it that way. I'm trying to be so tactful with my words. So knowledge, light, wisdom, elevation, and wisdom cannot be negative just by the nature of what wisdom is and what it is to do and give to a person. It can't bring you down. No one can give you wisdom that's going to bring you down. Someone can give you some knowledge that can lead you in the wrong direction, that can lead you down a dark path, because knowledge is just, it could be anything. You understand? Knowledge can be very dark. Knowledge can be empowering. Knowledge can be anything. It can be brought down, such as, let's say, for example, weaponry. I can give someone knowledge about how to make weapons and what tactics to use to execute and to use these weapons in this way and that way. And not everyone has this. This is something that's exclusive. So that knowledge can definitely be detrimental if it's coming from a spirit or an energy or an entity, if you will, that has negative intentions. And I didn't mean to veer off with that, but it's just the truth. So wisdom it's a safeguard. It allows you to see beyond the veil of your everyday experience. That's why everyone doesn't have the knowledge that many of our elders have. If you have an elder, senior parent, elder, grandparent, auntie, teacher, whoever that you have had the opportunity to sit and talk with, they can give you some very valuable nuggets that you appreciate. And you're like, oh yeah, Mr. So-and-so told me this, that person told me that, because they can see the bigger picture in certain aspects of life that you haven't quite sprouted yet. You haven't come from underneath the soil and into the light of day as a young person or as a young adult in certain areas of your life. So I'm gonna stop the video there. This again was just an introduction, and we were looking at these three numbers. It gets very, very, very in depth, obviously. But I hope that you guys found this information useful. If there is anything you'd like to share, add to that, please comment. If you have insights regarding Gematria, this is English Gematria, so if you know Arabic and Hebrew and more complex levels of Gematria in other languages, I won't be covering that for quite a while, because for most of us, this is the language we speak, so we have to keep, I'm keeping the information simplified for that purpose. So yeah, thank you guys. Be sure to subscribe for future videos, and until next time, peace.